Hi, I'm Nick McLeod from the 1 Mile Bakery in Cardiff. Welcome to the Whiz Kids Cook Along. We're going to be doing 4 amazing recipes for you to cook for you and your families. Hi guys, and welcome to another recipe. For this one, we're going to make an amazing flatbread pizza with homemade yogurt coleslaw. For the yogurt coleslaw, you can see the list of ingredients in front of me. For the body of our ingredients, we're going to be using some white cabbage, some red cabbage, a little bit of onion, some apple, and some carrot. All these need to be chopped down really nice and finely. And actually for the apple and the carrot, I'm going to use the box grater. I'm going to work my way through these and I'll see you when they're all done. And here we have it guys, all the vegetables and the apple really nice and finely chopped up. We don't want any big chunks of anything here, it wants to be nice and delicate. So use a knife, a really sharp one, and chop things really finely. If you need a grown-up to help you do that, that's no problem at all. The other thing you can use is something like a food processor, where you get the grating attachment or the slicing attachment, and that'll do all the hard work for you. But I've grated my carrot and my apple, and I've finely sliced my cabbage and half an onion, and here's the resulting mix. Loads of different things you can try, adding different root vegetables in there. Celeriac or something like that would be amazing. But red onion, lots of different things you can try to customize your own coleslaw. That's our body of the ingredients done. Now we're going to make our dressing. Into a clean bowl, I'm going to weigh 200 grams of natural yogurt. Now normally coleslaw would be made with mayonnaise. Obviously mayonnaise is quite high in calories, so we're going to make this a really healthy version and use natural yogurt instead. So 200 grams of natural yogurt. A really nice generous heaped teaspoon of mustard. Now you can use any type of mustard for this. Here I've got whole grain, which adds really nice little pops of flavour with the mustard seeds. Season it well. A generous pinch of salt. And a good twist of fresh black pepper. And then about 3 tablespoons of olive oil to loosen the mix. 1, 2, 3. Finally, the juice of half a lemon. Try and catch those pips if you can before they go in. Wash our hands and then bring all the ingredients together. Now this is your chance to have a little taste guys. Really important to taste your food as you go along. This is the chance to make sure it's right and how you want it to be. It might need a little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper, maybe a pinch of sugar. Oh, it's amazing. Really nice and sharp. I'm going to add a twist of pepper and a little pinch of salt, and I'm really happy with that. And we can go in with our vegetables. All that coleslaw mix goes in. And then really coat everything. Give it a really good mix. Work it all around so that every little bit of carrot and cabbage and apple has got some of that dressing on it. And I said it's really quick and easy and a super healthy version. There we go. Everything really nicely coated. We can pop that to one side or we get on with our pizza. So the first thing to do once we've got our coleslaw made is get our grill on and our pan on. Now for this, if you can, you want a really heavy based frying pan. We're going to get this screaming hot. So again, be careful. What we're trying to replicate here is a proper wood-fired pizza oven where the temperatures are getting up to 400-500 degrees. So to kind of do a little cheats way of doing this, we're going to start the flatbread in the frying pan, which is going to be screaming hot, and then finish it under the grill. So we'll pop our pan on to heat up. I said we want to get this really hot, so on a nice medium heat to start, and we'll turn it up later, and pop your grill on full heat. Now this is a cheats pizza. We're going to make a flatbread pizza. So rather than having to make a dough and wait for it to prove and then come back and make the pizza later, this is going to be a super quick one, which we can make in about 10 minutes. So first we need some flour into our bowl. and I like to use a mix of flours. So we want 150 grams in total. I'm going to use 100 grams of self-raising, and then I like to add a little bit of wholemeal flour as well. It gives a real nutty, full flavour, and it's full of goodness. So 100 grams of self-raising and 50 of wholemeal. This is a really, really great basic flatbread recipe. So we're going to turn it into a pizza today, but you could just as well make this flatbread and then use it with some grilled meats or a barbecue or anything like that. It's delicious. Always season, so a nice generous pinch of salt. Half a teaspoon of baking powder, just to give us a little bit of lift. And then the basic recipe for a yogurt flatbread is equal quantities of flour and yogurt. So we've got 150 grams of flour, we want 150 grams of yogurt. Put our weighing scales to one side and we'll do the messy work in the bowl. Get yourself a wooden spoon or a spatula and really work all these ingredients together. So what I'm doing is really pushing all that wet yogurt into the dry flour and almost trying to clean my bowl so that I shouldn't have any little bits of dry flour left in the bottom. Now it's time to get in with our hands. Once you've got to this stage and all that dry flour is picked up from the bottom of the bowl and your bowl is clean, you can come out onto the work surface. Now the dough will feel sticky. You can add a very small dusting of flour if you want, but do your best just to work the dough as it is. And we're just going to give this a little knead with our hands just to pull the dough together. Don't worry if it does feel sticky. We're going to leave this dough to rest and it'll be much easier to work when we come back. A little pinch of flour and keep working. If you've got one of these, it's called a dough scraper. It's a brilliant little tool for helping you work any bread dough. Makes life a lot easier so that you can gather things back up together. And we're just going to work this dough for a couple of minutes, just until it really comes together and starts to bind to itself. And that's all we need to do. It's had a couple of minutes kneading. It's going to go back into the bowl now to rest. So a nice dusting of flour just so you can handle it. Turn the dough over in the flour so you can handle it. Shape it into a little round like that. Give it a little pat. So you've got a lovely disc. It's a good starting point for when we come back to our dough, and that can go into your bowl. Cover that with some cling film or a clean shower cap, and we'll leave it to rest while we get on with our pizza sauce. So our coleslaw's done, our pan is on, our grill is on, and we've made our flatbread base. Before we shape our flatbread, we're going to make our pizza sauce and get that on the stove. So you need to get yourself a nice saucepan, just a medium size, and to that add some olive oil, but while it's cold. This is really important. 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, so a nice generous amount. This is a classic Neapolitan pizza base. And then a good 2 cloves of garlic. Take the skins off the garlic and slice them really nice and finely. And then we're going to add this to the olive oil while it's still cold. That's really important because what we're going to try and do is flavour the olive oil. If we heat the oil up and the pan up and then throw our garlic in, very quickly it'll burn and go bitter. What we want to is infuse that garlic flavour into the oil. So take your time. There's no rush with any of this. If you need an adult to help you, that's absolutely fine. But we want to try and slice this garlic really nice and finely. And then we add this to our olive oil. And then we can take it over to the stove. The olive oil and garlic will just go on a medium heat. And as soon as you start to hear that garlic sizzle, that's the time to add your tomatoes. Try and get the best quality tomatoes you can. Here I've got a can of peeled plum tomatoes. Plum tomatoes tend to be the best variety you can get. San Marzano are the traditional ones they use in Naples for a Neapolitan pizza, but these are a really good second. So the pan's on a medium heat here, really nice and gentle. As I said, what we want is the olive oil to really infuse with that garlic flavour. So nothing's sizzling, nothing's bubbling away, really nice gentle heat. As soon as we start to see that garlic sizzle a little bit, that's the time to go in with our tomatoes. Be careful when you do this, because the oil is going to be hot, the tomatoes are going to split a little bit, so stand back or again let somebody help you. So there you can see the garlic is just starting to sizzle a little bit. I'm going to wait until I've got the just faintest first little bit of colour, and then the tomatoes are going to go in. So there we go. The garlic is just starting to change colour. The room is filled with an amazing garlic flavour. I'm going to stand back and add the tomatoes. I'm also going to rinse out the tin with just a quarter of a tin of water, and then that's going to go in as well. Now while it's on that medium heat, I'm going to break down the tomatoes with a wooden spoon. The tomatoes are still whole at the moment, and if you want to blend the sauce at the end you can, but I quite like a little bit of texture in my tomato sauce, so we'll use a spoon to break them down and then maybe use a masher at the end. Now what these tomatoes definitely need is seasoning. Really generous with a good pinch of salt, pinch and a half, a lovely twist of pepper. The other thing you need is a little pinch of sugar. Quite often tomatoes can be acidic, so just a small pinch of sugar will take the edge off that. And that's all there is to our tomato sauce. So bring that tomato sauce up to the boil, get it bubbling, and then turn it down just to a simmer to tick over for 5 to 10 minutes while we make our pizza base. Okay, so back to our pizza dough. We've got our sauce on, and while our sauce is thickening, we're going to make our pizza base. You'll feel now that the dough is noticeably drier. That's because the flour has absorbed a lot of the liquid in the natural yogurt. So we're going to dust generously with flour on our work surface. We're going to put our little disc of dough on top of that flour and then dust generously again. What we're going to try and do is replicate that pizza base, okay? So with the tips of your fingers, work from the center of the dough and push the dough out towards the edge. We're going to try and maintain a little crust around the edge, and we're going to turn the dough to try and keep the circle. So I'm using the tips of my fingers to push that dough out, a little turn, and push again. What we're doing is working this pizza base out to about the size of our pan. So take your time. Don't be afraid to add more flour if you need to. Work your way around, try and maintain that circle, but that's not important. If your dough goes out to that perfect pizza shape, it doesn't matter, it won't taste any different. But that dough has now got a lovely springiness and stretchiness to it because the gluten has started to develop. The other thing you can do, of course, is roll this out with a rolling pin. If you're not worried about keeping that little crust on the edge, use a rolling pin, and it does make life easier. But as long as you've got enough flour down, and you take your time, you can work this dough out, as I said, from the center out all the time. What we want to create is a really nice thin base that'll cook nice and quickly in our pan. And there we have it, about the size of my pan. So my sauce has thickened up really nicely, okay? It's had about 10 minutes or so bubbling away on the heat and reduced down by about a quarter. It's now nice and thick. We'll allow that to cool a little bit. What I'm also going to do is go in with a potato masher just to break up those last little bits of tomato and give us a lovely texture to our sauce. If you prefer your sauces blended, you can absolutely go in with a hand blender or pop it in a food processor. While we allow our sauce to cool down a little bit, we're going to start cooking our pizza base. Slightly different to the technique for cooking a pizza where you assemble it and then pop it in. To make sure this base is super crispy because it's a flatbread base, we're going to pop it in the pan to start, cook it halfway through, and then add our sauce and our toppings. So I'll show you that by bringing the pan over. The pan is screaming hot at the moment, almost smoking hot, so be really, really careful. I'm just bringing it over now to show you for demonstration purposes. This is going to go into a dry frying pan, no olive oil, otherwise it'll burn. Just nice and confidently lift your pizza base up into the pan, and then that's going to go back onto the heat. Now straight away this base starts cooking. So you can see little bubbles starting to form. Because this pan is so hot and our base is so nice and thin, it's cooking almost instantly. What we're looking for is just to cook for about a minute or so until we get a really nice little bit of colour on the bottom of the dough, and then we'll go back and add our pizza toppings. So get yourself something like a palette knife so you can have a little check underneath. Again, be careful because it's so hot, but it really won't take long. We're already getting some colour on that dough now. See little bubbles starting to form. That's a really good sign that your dough is cooking. And there, we're already starting getting some nice colour on the bottom. We'll just leave that for another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll come back and we'll add our pizza toppings. So there we go, guys, look at that. Got some really nice colour on the bottom of the dough already. The dough is pretty much half cooked, which is fab, that's what we want. Next we can go on with our toppings. I'm going classic margarita. I love those simple flavours, but feel free to top it with whatever you want. Get yourself a nice big spoon and pop a couple of generous spoons of tomato sauce in the middle of your pizza while it's still in the pan. Then using the back of the spoon, run that tomato sauce all over the dough, leaving a little rim around the edge, which makes it easier to pick the pizza up. Don't be tempted to put too much sauce on because we don't want a sloppy pizza, but you want just enough so that you taste that amazing tomato sauce you've just made, which goes really well with pasta and things like that as well. So the tomatoes on. Here I've got some fresh mozzarella. I'm just going to tear up some little pieces and dot those in and around. And then a little sprinkling of oregano. And finally some fresh basil. With a pizza, quite often less is more. So the temptation is to load it up with loads and loads of toppings and loads of flavours. But really, the Italians just love 3 simple flavours. So this is going to go back onto the stove now. We're going to cook it for 1 more minute on the stove, and then we're going to finish it under the grill. And here's the secret to getting that really authentic pizza. Finishing it under the grill so we get amazing heat on top of the dough. Right up as close as we possibly can to the grill. It's only going to go in for a minute or so, just to really toast the top of the crust and melt that cheese. And here we have it, guys, our homemade pizza with amazing yogurt coleslaw. Listen to that crispy base. So please have a go at this recipe, guys. It's so simple. It comes together in about 15 or 20 minutes. No proving of doughs, no pizza ovens, just everything you've got in your kitchen. And at the end of it, amazing pizza. Enjoy.